cut on time, cut for your teammates, and that is thinking the game with Let me say it again. Hola, ¿qué tal? What's up? Marhaban bikum. Welcome to episode 9 of Thinking the Game with UpLine Ultimate. I'm Coach Zane Wolfang. Today is a purely theoretical episode. We are truly thinking the game today. And I wanted to talk a little bit about understanding how to cut and how to cut for your teammates. Okay? So in one of our previous episodes, we sort of talked about a basic outline of a cutting cycle of when we can kind of try to look for a deep strike, when we're just looking for something reliable to gain yards in the open side of the field, and when we're feeling that we need to reset the disc and get a new stall count, right? And we kind of talked about it from the handler's perspective of understanding the decision that person needs to make. Now we're talking about the cutters. And, you know, one thing about cutting in the cutting cycle is that at times you might feel that your defender is overmatching you and you're not really getting open. You might feel that your thrower is looking for something else and is not really paying attention. But you need to remember that within the context of the team sport that is ultimate, at times you need to cut simply because it's your turn to cut. It's your turn to go and try and make a move in the lane and then clear if you don't receive the disc, so that the kind of machine-like aspect of your team's offense can continue working as it's supposed to. So, you know, a lot of thinking the game when it comes to cutting is understanding that it can still be a good cut even if you don't receive the disc, and often it's still a necessary cut even if you don't receive the disc. I think a really good example of this, I'm going to talk about mixed ultimate here, and so I'm going to use these terms, DAOs, defenders of women, and DOMs, defenders of men. So DAO, defender of women, DOM, defender of men. When you play mixed, you play with DAOs and DOMs on the field together, and you might start to notice that one of your DAO teammates, your defender of women teammates, maybe they're winning their matchup repeatedly. They have an athletic advantage or a skill advantage over the player that's marking them. However, a lot of times in the mixed game, if we don't set up our teammates' cuts well, what we see is a DAO offensive player going deep, making a great cut, but a DOM defender being able to peel off, poach the deep space, and go play help defense and sky that DAO player. So when we talk about thinking the game and we talk about thinking through our cuts and cutting for our teammates, we can help ensure that our offense takes advantage of our DAO players' abilities by really cutting hard away from the area of the field that we want our DAO player to take. So if we want our DAO player to take the disc on the break side, we want to cut aggressively to the open side so that our DOM defender is forced to respect us. If we think our DAO has an advantage in the deep space, we need to cut aggressively to the under space so that our defender is forced to stay with us and can't go play help defense and mitigate that DAO's advantage. So when we talk about thinking the game, we talk about setting up our cuts, you know, the big thing is that when it's your turn to cut, you have to cut. You can't cut for the disc, you have to cut for the team, okay? And then in mix specifically, I think that if players, in particular DOM players, are communicative and conscientious about planning their cuts, if they're communicating on the field and purposefully attacking certain spaces, they can really maximize the advantage that their DAO teammates have if they're winning their matchups. You know, as opposed to maybe being lazy, staying in the stack, you know, loitering in the deep space, not cutting hard because I don't think I'm going to get the disc. And now my DOM defender is going to play help defense and is taking away a point from my DAO teammate who worked so hard to get open. Cut on time, cut for your teammates. Even when you don't get the disc, it doesn't mean it was a bad cut. It could have been a great cut that helped your teammate get open and score. And that is thinking the game with UpLine Ultimate.